Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you round 14 of my TBR game rotating decks, where I have Uno cards help me pick my prompts to create part of my monthly TBR. So May is going to be a quite exciting month. I am planning on participating in 3 readathons. The first of those is Horror Mayhem, which is hosted by my friends the Bookish Bryants. This is just a month long of reading short horror novels. They've done a couple other themed readathons like this in the past. Even though they say short, they really just accept if you read whatever from the genre. And so in May, it's horror novels under 250 pages. But like I said, as long as you're reading horror, you'll be participating. So that's what I'm planning to do, is just read a bunch of horror in May. They will have themed weeks if you need a little bit more structure. So definitely check out their announcement video for Horror Mayhem down in the description box below if you're interested in participating as well. There are a bunch of other co-hosts, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun reading some horror in May. Then the second readathon I want to participate in is Middle Grade May, which is being hosted by a bunch of my friends. Storm from Storm Reads, Lee from Dark Roots Creations, Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books, and Elizabeth Tyree from Soul Stained Ink. So they're hosting Middle Grade May, so I definitely want to get some middle grade books in. And I also want to participate in Lee's National Lampoon Vacation Readathon. I think she may just be calling it the Vacation Readathon, but it's based on the movie National Lampoon's Vacation, and that's Lee from Dark Roots Creations. So definitely check out all the links down in the description box below for those readathons, but those are the readathons that I have planned to participate in May. Now, let's talk about the TBR game for the month. So before I get into that, I do want to tell you how I've done so far in the month of April. The day I am filming this, it is April 23rd. So I do have 1 week until the end of the month, just so that you know. But in April's round of rotating decks, I picked Comixology, so that means I needed to read something from my Comixology library. And I was supposed to read What Did You Eat Yesterday, volumes 15 and 16 or something like that. I have not yet read those, but like I said, I do have a week left until the end of the month, and because it's manga volumes, I don't foresee me having a problem getting through those volumes, so I'm going to go ahead and count that as a pass. The next thing I was supposed to read is something from the Fear Street series by R.L. Stine. And so for this one, I said I was going to read Betrayal. This is the bind-up of the Fear Street saga by R.L. Stine. I am 97 pages into this book. So the first part of that book is actually this book right here. So this is my original copy from when I was growing up. So this is the same thing as the first part of that bind-up. And so I do foresee me finishing this part before the end of the month, and my rules say as long as I read 100 pages or DNF it by the end of the month, I'm good to go. I am almost at that 100-page mark, so I'm definitely going to be finishing at least this part of that bind-up, so I'm going to count that as good to go. And then the last thing I needed to read was a punishment pick, because we got a draw for Wild. And so I had picked up Allegiant. So that is the third book in the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I have finished this book. It took me a very long time, but I finished it. And so I am counting that as pass. So no punishment picks for the month of May, which is awesome. So let's get into the rolls, and then I will be back with you afterwards to share with you what I have picked for those prompts, and then share with you the other things that I need to read, like for the Monochrome Manga Club, and piles of possibilities for the 3 readathons that I had mentioned earlier. So let's get to the gameplay right now. Okay, so here is the setup for May's round of rotating decks. As I had mentioned in April's round, we will be using the Masters of the Universe deck in honor of my brother's birthday in May. So this is the first time we're seeing this deck, and I am really excited. So as per usual, I am going to have my daughter cut the deck so that you know that I don't know what is on the top of this deck. Okay, my daughter has cut the deck, so let's hope for a round that is not as eventful as it was last month. So here we go, 3 pulls per usual. Our first pull is, that is a 9. And I can't remember the names of these characters, to be honest. It's been quite a long time, but yes, blue 9. And the prompt is bought in 2013. So that just means a book that I bought in 2013. Our next prompt is, that is a purple 1, and obviously there is no purple. Let me just take a look. So based on the colors that are shown here on the deck, the yellow is missing, so we have blue, green, red, and purple. So I'm going to say this is a yellow 1. So we'll just take this first card right here, and the prompt is bought in 2012. Okay. So far, I'm feeling okay with these selections. Last prompt. The card is a skip. Oh, how lovely. So that means I do not have to read anything for that prompt, which is wonderful. So that will do it for this month's round of rotating decks. So let me go ahead and pull some books for the 2 prompts that I have, and I will be back with you in a bit to share with you what books I have chosen. Okay, well that was some exciting gameplay. Like I had mentioned in last month's round, we were switching up to Masters of the Universe, and so it was nice to see those characters, especially being that it's very nostalgic for me. And growing up with my brother and watching that cartoon and playing with the characters and things like that, because we did have like action figures. And so it is my brother's birthday in May, so it was nice to see that deck. And we did not get a wild, so we'll be playing with that deck at least another month. But let's get into the rolls. So the first card I chose was a blue 9, and I have now remembered that this is Skeletor and Panther, I believe. So my memory escaped me while we were pulling the cards, but yes, I believe this is Skeletor and Panther. So blue 9, and that brought me a bot in 2013. And so for this one, I have decided to go with Grey Walker from Kat Richardson. This is actually going to be a reread for me. This is one of the series that is on my series to read in 2022 lists. And I have to reread this in order to continue with this series. It's been a very long time since I've read this one. But if I remember correctly, this is about a woman. It says she's a small-time PI. And she gets into an accident that leaves her dead for about 2 minutes. And when she comes to, she starts seeing things that can only be described as weird shapes. So some kind of like foggy gray mist. And so this kind of starts her on her journey, trying to figure out what the things are and, you know, living with this ability now to seeing these things and also do her job as a PI. And so I remember really enjoying this one. I also remembered that I had listened to it completely on audiobook because that was the only way it was available to me at the time. And so I'm glad I have a physical copy now. And like I said, I picked it up in 2013, so I obviously have not read it since then. But I do have a few other books in this series now. And so I want to get to them, but I can't because I don't quite remember what happened in this one. So I'm looking forward to revisiting that one. So that was my purchased in 2013 pick. And then I had a purple one, which since there's no purple cards in the normal Uno deck, we said this was a yellow. This is He-Man and Battle Cat. If I remember correctly, though, outside of this form, this cat is rather cowardly. But like I said, it's been a long time. So yellow one, even though that's a purple. So that brought me bought in 2012. And for this one, I am doing another reread. This is another series that's on my series to read in this year, 2022. And that is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. And so I'm sure you all know what this is about. It is following a boy whose grandfather dies, and he starts finding these things that his grandfather left, which leads him to find this house for peculiar children. And then there goes his adventure, right? I also, on first read, listened to this completely on audiobook. And I do remember feeling like I had missed out because this book has lots of photographs inside, which I feel kind of add to the ambiance of the story. And because I was listening on audio, I did not get that. So I do want to reread this, not only to experience it with all of the photographs for that added ambiance, but so that I can also continue with this series. So I am going to go ahead and do this one. So both of these books will help me along with my projects for this year. But the reason that I picked rereads up as well was because when I was looking through the list, there wasn't anything that was grabbing my attention. I am having a really difficult time with reading at the moment. Most of the things I've read lately have been 3 or 3.5 stars. And so I know that when I had read these books, they were like on the higher 4-star. So I'm hoping that by rereading, I will also kind of help out my reading mojo, kind of give it a little kick, if you will, because I have been struggling. So I'm looking forward to getting to these, re-experiencing those, hopefully upping my reading mojo from where it's been, and also make progress with a couple of my projects for the year. So those were the two that I picked for those prompts, and then I was lucky enough to pick a green skip. So I believe this guy is Beast Man, and he's a baddie. So I didn't have to read anything for that, so that is great. Having that skip opens me up a little bit to participate in all of the readathons that I want to participate in for this month. So before we get into the readathon piles of possibilities, let me tell you what we are reading for the Monochrome Manga Club. That is in real life manga club that I host at our local Barnes & Noble. So if you'd like to read along with us on these selections and then discuss them with me in my series First Impressions video at the end of the month, definitely join in. I'd love to hear what you think about these volumes as well. But we are reading 2 first in a series selections, and then we're also doing 2 series reads. So our first in a series selection is A Man and His Cat. This is volume 1 by Umi Sakurai. This one is published by Square Enix Manga and is rated all ages. This follows a cat who is waiting to be adopted. And even when the price is discounted, nobody seems to want him until this older gentleman sees him in the window and decides to take him home. And this is the story of how that relationship kind of changes both of their lives. I'm really looking forward to this. And so that is the first of our first in a series selections. Our second first in a series selection is going to be volume 1 of The Fox and Little Tanuki. This one is by Mi Tagawa, and it's published by Tokyo Pop, rated again all ages. This one follows a fox who has been abusing his strength until he gets imprisoned for bad behavior. And 300 years later, he's finally released, but he's told he can't have his powers back until he helps this little tanuki pup named Manpachi become an assistant to the gods. And so this is their story. I'm really looking forward to that one. The artwork on that looks super adorable. And so those are our two first in the series selections. Then we will be continuing our series read of Sailor Moon, or Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon by Naoko Takeuchi. This is the second Eternal edition. We are reading one Eternal edition a month. This one's published by Kodansha, rated teen. This is that magical girl story I'm sure you're all familiar with. So we're reading volume 2 of that. And then we're also continuing our series read of Death Note by reading volume 5 of the Black editions. So that is volumes 9 and 10 in the single editions, following Light and his found notebook where he can actually kill people by writing their names. At this point of the story where we're at, things have changed a bit, so I don't want to give things away. But yes, we are enjoying experiencing that one and discussing it with the group. So that's everything that we are reading for the Monochrome Manga Club. And so let's get into some of the piles of possibilities that I have sitting here for Horror Mayhem. So I have a little list here as well because I do want to read a lot of stuff from Kindle Unlimited. I feel like I've been neglecting to read things off of Kindle Unlimited, and I want to make sure that I'm using that service, as I have a 2-year subscription. And so, yeah. But I do want to read one thing that I have physically, and that is Nothing But Blackened Teeth. This is by Cassandra Caw, and this is about a group of friends, I believe. They have reserved a haunted house for their wedding, and then they meet this woman. And so I'm looking forward to reading this. I've heard not too great things about it, to be honest, but I would like to see what I think. And yes, it's set in Japan, and so I think this should be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this one brings. This is obviously under 250 pages, and it is a short this way book. So yeah, it's 124 pages, so fits perfectly for Horror Mayhem. The next thing I'd like to consider reading is Cirque Berserk. This is the 4th book in the Rewind or Die series by Jessica Guess. I believe this series are all connected under the theme of Rewind or Die, but they are not connected. They don't follow the same characters, and they are written by lots of different authors. So this particular one is written by Jessica Guess, and it follows a group of people who I believe killed a bunch of people at an amusement park in the 70s or 80s, and then they disappeared. So now we're fast forwarding, I believe it said 30 years, and another group of people are visiting the amusement park trying to find out what happened. I'm really looking forward to this. It was on my radar for last October, and I didn't get around to it, but I really want to try to get around to it for Horror Mayhem. So that's definitely on the list. I have The Haunted Forest Tour by James A. Moore and Jeff Strand. This one is a little bit bigger than 250 pages, but I'm still going to put it on the pile of possibilities because this one, when I heard about it, sounded very interesting. It is about a guided tour on a bus going through a forest where animals and creatures and things that you don't expect to be there are there. I heard about this one from my friend Storm at Storm Reads, who is also helping to host the middle grade May Readathon. And so I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I have The Catacombs, which is the 2nd book in the World's Scariest Places series by Jeremy Bates. This is a series that I had checked out because the first book is called Suicide Forest, and that one is set in the Aokigahara Forest in Japan, which is known as Suicide Forest. Lots of people go there to commit suicide. And so I checked that one out. It was interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings in this particular installment because it happens in the catacombs of France, I believe. And it's where a group of people find some video footage of these people who had gone missing in the catacombs, and they go and kind of investigate themselves. I'm sure some scary stuff happens because it is the world's scariest places. And so I'm looking forward to continuing with that series. I have Witch by Ian Rob Wright, and this one has kind of a religious connection, which I'm not too keen on normally, reading things with religious connections. But this one follows some people who receive these, documents. And basically, if you receive the document, you're, kind of screwed. That's kind of the gist I got from it. Like I said before, I don't like to know a lot of stuff going into the things that I read, just because I like to go in blind and get the most out of my experience without knowing too much. But that's kind of the gist I got on that. I have 6 Rooms by Gemma Amor. This one is about a haunted hotel tour. And so that's all I needed to know on that one. I love haunted mansion, haunted house type stories, so I think this one is going to be right down my alley. And then the last one I have here from Kindle Unlimited, it is Deadlocked Dollhouse. This is the first book in the Locked House Hauntings series by Mixie J. Applebottom. This one follows a man who brings home a dollhouse for his daughter, and they figure out that the dollhouse is haunted. And so I think that's going to be an interesting story to read. So that's pretty much all of the books that I have on my radar for Horror Mayhem. The next few books will also tie in to Horror Mayhem, but will cross over with Middle Grade May. And so I have Lois Ruby's The Doll Graveyard. This is part of the Hauntings collection. It's not a series. I have read a couple of the other books that are in the inside flap over here. The Haunted Museum, The Titanic Locket, you've heard me talk about. I've read for March Mystery Madness a couple years ago, and have read another book in that series as well. I read The Ghost of Greylock a couple years ago as well. So this is another one of those books, and there's one more book that I don't have yet, but this is the one that I have. This follows a family who moves into a house that was left to them by their aunt, I believe. And she was in some kind of home because she kept talking pretty much nonsense. But it says the house at Cinder Creek hides many secrets and the dolls won't stay buried. And so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. I think it's going to be an interesting ride. And so, yes, that I've set that one aside for Middle Grade May, but it'll also cross over with Horror Mayhem. And then I did a little bit of a book haul recently when I went to the Barnes & Noble for our manga club meeting. So I have been really interested in checking out this author's work. So I have picked up a bunch of K.R. Alexander's books. And so I'm interested to check these out. Like I said, I don't know much about these, but I have Vacancy. This one is about a haunted mansion. I have The Undrowned, and it's about 2 girls who get into a fight by a riverbank. One of them pushes one into the river. They can't find her, so they think she's dead, but then she shows up at school the next day. I have The Collected, which I think might be a sequel to The Collector. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that one out. But this one is about dolls. And I believe the collector is also about dolls. I know a lot of these are on Hoopla, or they are available to me from Hoopla at my library only as audiobooks. And so once I figure out if the Collected is a sequel to the Collector, I will read accordingly. I have the Fear Zone, which looks like it's about clowns. I'm not really keen on clowns, but we'll see how this one goes. This one has a sequel as well, but the Barnes & Noble did not have the sequel, so I just picked up the first one. I have Follow Me. This one says you can't get ahead when you're chased by the dead. New House, New Town, New Nightmare. I have Haunt Me. If you don't behave, she'll come back from the grave. Isabella, is that you? And so this is about a girl who loses her sister, and then she goes to a slumber party where they suggest they play a game that summons spirits of the dead, and a spirit comes through claiming to be her sister. That sounds interesting. And the last one I have here is Bury Me. What's that sound coming from the ground? Some dolls never die. And so I think this one is, yes, it's about a menacing doll that appears with clothes written on written on the clothes it says Bury Me. They try to destroy the doll, and every time they think it's gone, it comes back. So I think those are going to be some entertaining things to read. And like I said, a bunch of the other books are also available on Hoopla as audiobook only. So hopefully I'll enjoy this author's work. I have been intrigued ever since I saw the author's work at the Barnes & Noble when I was shopping for Skullduggery Pleasant for the March Mystery Madness Readathon. And the read-along that was being hosted by Elizabeth Tyree over at Soulstain Inc. She's also helping to host the Middle Grade May Readathon. So I pretty much wiped out their selection of K.R. Alexander's books. And yes, so I'm looking forward to those. That's my pile of possibilities for Middle Grade May. And then for Lee over at Dark Roots Creations, she's hosting her National Lampoon Vacation Readathon. She's also helping to host Middle Grade May. And so for the National Lampoon Vacation Readathon, there is a bingo board. I am going to try for a bingo, the top row bingo. So the first one is Wally World, features an amusement park. For that one, I'm going to read Cirque Berserk. Like I had mentioned earlier, that one is set in a amusement park. And then for a 1983 release, I just picked up a book from my local Little Free Library that I thought that is perfect because I could not find a book in my collection that was written in 1983. I mean, written in the 1980s. I looked through all of my books from when I was growing up. I thought I should have a book from the 1980s, and I could not find one for the life of me. They were all like 1990 and later. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I had gone to my Little Free Library just because I hadn't gone in such a long time, and I actually found this one sitting in the kids' hut. So this is R.L. Stein's Twisted. It says, she's your sister, trust her. It says Abby would do anything to be in the school's most exclusive sorority, and now she's got the chance because the sorority sisters have asked her to join them. All Abby has to do is get through the initiation, but that might be a problem because this year the initiation is going to be murder. And so this one was published in 1987. So that's perfect. So now I've got one for that. And then the last box is for Clark Griswold. The main character is a family patriarch. And for this one, I'm going to read Deadlocked Dollhouse, the first book in the Locked House Hauntings series by Mixie J. Applebottom. Since I believe that one follows the father's perspective and him bringing home this dollhouse. and figuring out that it is haunted. So again, I have a nice pile of things to read, lots of readathons to help keep my reading mojo up. Hopefully, I'll be having a better time with reading in May. Yeah, I'm kind of unhappy that reading hasn't brought me as much joy as it has in the past lately. And I think it's just because I have been reading books that I just have not really been enjoying. So hopefully I'm going to find lots of enjoyment in these selections and get through a lot of them, because all of the readathons sound like they're going to be super fun. So let me know down in the comments below if you will be participating in any of these readathons, or if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, but please no spoilers. Please also let me know if you plan on jumping in on my Monochrome Manga Club reads, because I'd love to discuss those reads with some of you here on YouTube as well. If nothing else, you would just like to let me know that you are here. If you could like this video and leave me a cat emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye!